Namaskaram and welcome to today's Explainer. We are jumping right into a pretty incredible automotive time machine today. We are looking at a true classic, a 2009 Ford Fiesta ZXi Diesel. But here's the really wild part. The drive and analysis we're unpacking actually took place in August of 2026. Yeah, you heard me right. We're exploring exactly how a car that's been hitting the pavement for 17 years holds up today. We're going to break down its timeless visual design, a robust build that is honestly quite surprising, and an AC system that, well, it might just put your brand new car to shame. Okay, let's dive into this. 17 years. In the car world, that is literally an eternity. Usually, when you think of a vehicle pushing nearly 2 decades on our roads, you probably have a very specific picture in your head, right? You're bracing yourself for a creaky, rattling mess. You expect worn-out suspension, a ton of cabin noise, and just this general vibe that the car is on its last legs. But this 2009 Fiesta, it completely subverts all of those expectations. Instead of feeling fragile or tired, it actually feels incredibly planted, energetic, and just ready for more. There's a specific phrase from our source material that just hits the nail on the head here. The driver noted, "Bhayankar solidite to feel chenu," which translates from Malayalam to "feels extremely solid," and it really does. Despite its age, this car has held onto a stunningly timeless visual design. It doesn't look desperately dated or out of place on modern roads. And what's really cool is that this specific car hasn't been babied in some climate-controlled garage. It's been used normally. Yet, the second you shut the door, you immediately register this incredible sense of robust build quality. When you stack it up against modern vehicles, the contrast is actually pretty wild. The 2009 Fiesta has this heavy, planted feel that just gives you so much confidence behind the wheel. Compare that to a lot of the lightweight cars driving around today, like some of the current Maruti models, for example. Sure, those modern cars have great tech and fuel efficiency, but they often have this kind of hollow or thin feeling by comparison. They just don't have that bank vault solidity. Now, to be fair, our 17-year-old time capsule hasn't completely defied the laws of physics. It does have a little bit of rust on the right back fender near the wheel arch and a bit on the floorboard. But honestly, for its vintage, that's minor, and it doesn't take away from the overall robust build. And this brilliantly illustrates the driving dynamics of this machine. The tactile feel is just fantastic. First off, the clutch release is so linear and smooth. You know how some older diesels have that harsh, jerky bite point that makes sitting in traffic a total nightmare? Not here. Zero bogging down, zero jerkiness. The steering is beautifully weighted and engaging. It gives you that raw, organic connection to the road that modern electronic steering just filters out. And the suspension? It's on the stiffer side, yeah, but it's highly absorbent. When you hit a small pothole, it doesn't send a shockwave up your spine. It just makes this really satisfying solid tuck sound and glides right over.
So, what about the interior experience? We have to talk about NVH, noise, vibration, and harshness. You'd completely expect an old diesel engine to rattle your teeth and deafen you on the highway, but the cabin is surprisingly quiet. It does a fantastic job of isolating all that outside diesel clatter. Plus, you don't get any of those harsh, unrefined vibrations that are so common in modern 3-cylinder engines. When you compare the ride quality and cabin isolation to rivals in the used market like the Skoda Rapid, the Fiesta holds its ground beautifully. It's just a much more relaxed, fatigue-free environment.
Let's talk about what happens when you actually put your foot down. The magic number here is 2,000 RPM. This is exactly where the engine dynamics truly wake up. Below that, it's manageable, sure, but right around 2,000 RPM, the turbo kicks in, and you get that classic diesel torque pulling you forward. It's this incredibly smooth, linear surge of power that makes overtaking a total joy. It's that old-school turbo diesel thrill you just don't see much anymore. So the crucial point is understanding this specific power band, because the car definitely has a notable quirk. In the 1,000 to 1,500 RPM range, especially if you're on an incline, going into a corner, or slowing down for a junction, the engine can suddenly feel completely out of breath. You get this sudden drop in power. You can't just lazily lug it up a hill in third gear. You have to take deliberate action and downshift to first or second to get those revs back up. But the payoff is that once you cross that 2,000 RPM threshold, you're rewarded with that smooth turbo pull. It just demands that you be an active, engaged driver. Now, let me throw out a question that is probably on everyone's mind when looking at a used car from 2009. Does a 17-year-old AC still work effectively? We all know the absolute dread of getting into an old car on a hot day, and the AC is just a noisy blower weakly pushing lukewarm air around. It's the worst. Well, Prepare to have your expectations completely rewritten.
The reality inside this cabin is that the AC system is simply superb. Even driving during the monsoon with the outside temp around 24 or 25 degrees, this AC blasts freezing cold air. And we're talking about a mid-level setting. You barely even have to touch the dial to feel perfectly chilled. It's a massive testament to the quality of the components Ford was using back then. Oh, and while we're on the tactile stuff, there's a fun little quirk here. The car has inverted American-style controls, so the wiper and indicator stalks are flipped compared to your standard Japanese cars in India. Takes a minute to get used to, but it definitely adds some unique character.
Look, it wouldn't be a 17-year-old car without at least one little gremlin, right? Occasionally, if the car has been sitting parked for 4 or 5 days, you might get a slight glitch on startup. Basically, you might see some random lines pop up on that small analog digital screen on the dash, and the engine might shut off right after turning over. But it's an easy fix. You just turn the key to completely shut it down, do a quick restart, the screen clears right up, and it runs perfectly. Very minor stuff for an otherwise rock-solid package. Let's move to and see how this builds into the broader picture of the used market reality today. We've talked about its timeless visual design and those highly engaging driving mechanics. Plus, in this specific drive, there were absolutely no major injector or turbo issues found, which is usually the big nightmare with old diesels. But what about actually keeping it on the road? Well, the fantastic news is that spare parts are currently readily available through dealers like Kerali Ford. That parts availability is exactly what transforms this Fiesta from a nostalgic memory into a genuinely viable, practical option in today's secondhand market. Which brings us to our final thought. With its enduring aesthetic, a robust build that genuinely puts a lot of modern cars to shame, and a superb AC system that still freezes the cabin, this car offers some serious value. It gives you an organic, thrilling driving experience that's really hard to find today without spending an absolute fortune. So I'll leave you with this. Is this 17-year-old time capsule your next secondhand buy? Thank you so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and happy hunting out there.